All right, what is going on, everybody? RogersBase here. I'm actually in the middle of doing a live stream right now on Twitch, but I was thinking about it, and One Piece is going to be on break this weekend, and I honestly don't know if I'm going to be able or be allowed to upload a video this Sunday. You'll know what I mean come Friday. So I wanted to sort of do a One Piece upload this week anyway, to sort of get you guys excited and thinking about One Piece while I'm gone. And the one topic that keeps coming back to me is things that I need to see in One Piece before the series ends. You know, obviously, Oda has said that we are now entering the final saga of One Piece. That could mean multiple different story arcs. We don't really know what it means. Apparently, there's been a lot of talk that One Piece is going to end when they discover the One Piece. That's been something that Artur's been saying a lot on Twitter, and I've been seeing that more and more sort of bubbling up as a prevailing theory that the series really isn't going to end where we thought it was going to end. Like, at least in my head, prior to going into the past couple weeks, I had assumed the series would be like this towards the end of the series, right? We'd leave Wano, we'd go to Elbaf, we'd go to Laugh Tale or another island or something, we discover the One Piece, whatever the truth is regarding the One Piece sort of leads us into the final war, and then officially after the final war is over, Luffy's declared Pirate King, and then that'll be that, right? That's sort of how I thought the series was going to go. And now more and more it looks like that is not going to be the case. And you know, I'm fine with whatever Oda's going to do. I'm not in a situation where I'm sitting over here like, Oda, you have to do this, otherwise I'm going to be disappointed. No, I feel like Oda's been wanting to write this final saga of One Piece for so long, so I do have faith that whatever he's going to end up doing is going to be fantastic. But what I wanted to sit down and talk about today is the things that I need to see in One Piece before the series ends. These are things that if they did not happen in the series or if they were off-screened, I would genuinely be upset, because again, I have been reading this series since I was like 12 years old, getting the physical North American Shonen Jump volumes, and there's a lot of stuff that's sort of been on my mind ever since I started reading this series as a kid. So that is sort of what I want to talk about a little bit today. We got the live chat going as well. Shout out to everybody in here saying love my energy, fantastic. All right, so first things first, and probably the reason why you clicked on this video, because of the beautiful thumbnail that James made for it. The number one thing I need to see in the end of the series that more and more I'm thinking we might not get, I need to see a full fight between Zoro and Mihawk, all right? Zoro's goal is to become the world's greatest swordsman, and Mihawk is currently the world's greatest swordsman. We need to see that fight. I will be vehemently disappointed if that ends up getting off-screened. Now again, I'm not saying that I think Oda won't do it, but I personally think that where we are in the story right now, it could happen that the fight gets off-screened or doesn't get more than a chapter or two, which would obviously be a huge bummer. And there's a lot of expectations I have for that fight in terms of, you know, obviously we know now Zoro has Conqueror's Haki, so I feel like that confirms to me at least that Mihawk definitely also has it as well. I mean, Mihawk has the title of the world's greatest swordsman. I feel like if the world's greatest swordsman didn't have Conqueror's Haki, there'd probably be a problem there. So I do sort of expect like a clash of Conqueror's Haki between Mihawk and Zoro at some point. I think it's going to be a really amazing looking fight. I don't know what else I really expect of that fight beyond like the Conqueror's Haki clash and Zoro beating him, but that's what I want, man. I think that's like the number one thing that I really want is Zoro versus Mihawk. And again, I don't need a lot of it, but I need something. I don't want it to be off-screened. I don't want it to be a chapter or two. This is like, again, this is Zoro's dream. This is something that has been set up in the series for so long that if that doesn't end up getting delivered on, I will be upset. Now, granted, okay, the new stuff with the Cross Guild and Buggy and Crocodile and Mihawk all working together and the bounties in the Marines' heads, I think that is perfect setup for a fight against Mihawk for Zoro, right? Because you got Buggy, you got Crocodile, you got Mihawk. You got the three heads of the Cross Guild. Boom, set it up with the monster trio. You have Zoro versus Mihawk, maybe you do Sanji versus Crocodile, and you have Luffy completely curb stomp Buggy. And that'll be great. And you have a fight with the Cross Guild, because again, right, if we're in the final saga of the series, we most likely need to see clashes with the other Yonko. I mean, we're gonna have to see that at some point. And that's not necessarily something I need to see. I don't need to see a rematch of Luffy and Buggy, because we all know Luffy's gonna stomp him. I don't necessarily need to see Sanji versus Crocodile, because I feel like that wasn't even really a possibility until last chapter. But I do need to see Zoro versus Mihawk. That is my #1 desire, and I will be upset if we don't get it by the end of the series. Now, another thing I absolutely need to see. I need to see Akainu get his butt handed to him. I don't particularly care who does it, but one of my greatest fears about One Piece is that Akainu somehow is redeemed by the end of the series. That is like a true fear of mine, that somehow, some way, they turn Akainu good, or he turns over a new leaf or something, and I don't want that, man. I mean, he killed Ace. I think Oda knows that too. I feel like Oda is aware of the fact that we all hate Akainu. We love Akainu as a villain, but we don't like Akainu for what he did to Ace. And again, I don't know if that's like Luffy fighting Akainu or Sabo fighting Akainu. I think it would actually be really cool to see Sabo versus Akainu and whatever the final war would be, where you have sort of the second in command of the revolutionaries taking on the fleet admiral and sort of showing him that it wasn't really all about the devil fruit. It's like he has the will of Ace inside of him, and then Sabo's utilizing some other new technique paired with his haki. Like, I could see the panel now of Sabo doing a final attack against Akainu and then the ghost of Ace behind him. Oh my god, like, that would be so good. One final he can right into the ground would be so sick, man. I would love to see that. And I think Oda, he's gonna make the rematch against Akainu great, no matter what. Like, I fully expect that is something that Oda has planned for a very long time, much like I also do feel like he has planned Zoro and Mihawk for a very long time, which is why I'm not like super scared that we don't see it. But I do really, really, really want to see Akainu get his butt handed to him either by Sabo or by Luffy. And preferably, I would like to see Sabo be the one to take him down. But again, I also feel like it would be really cool if Luffy was involved in the fight in some way, or if we do get like a tag team attack that takes him down between Luffy and Sabo, and then you get the ghost of Ace behind them. Maybe Luffy does a Red Hawk, you get like Sabo going in with a Hiken, and then you've got the soul of Ace behind them as they're slamming Akainu into the water. Like, oh, that would be so good. I've said this theory for a long time, and multiple other people have brought up this theory as well. And this actually leads directly into one of the other things I really need to see in One Piece before the end of the series. A lot of people have had the theory that because Akainu has the lava fruit, and because how islands are formed, right? That somehow, some way, Akainu gets knocked into the water, and when he dies, the lava forms a new island that then the new marine fort, after everything is said and done in One Piece, can be built upon. I think that idea is so cool, where it's still like Akainu and the old government is still the foundation for whatever the new government's going to end up being, but at the same time, like, you've got the new good marines in charge. You've got Smoker, you've got Kobe, you've got the rest of them, and they're sort of turning over a new leaf, and maybe they don't necessarily love pirates, but they're not going after them quite as hard. So the one thing I wanted to bring up, the other thing I need to see in One Piece before the series ends, because obviously it's the weakness of most Devil Fruit users. We haven't seen it yet. There's a lot of villains who deserve to get the heck out of there. I need to see a character drown. I think it is shocking that we are 1,050-something chapters into the series and a character hasn't drowned yet. And I know that's a really weird thing to throw out there as something that I really want to see, but I feel like Blackbeard and Akainu are both really good candidates for being the one that drowns towards the end of One Piece, right? Blackbeard, a lot of people presume, going to be the final villain of the series, potentially. I feel like Blackbeard, because he's got 3 devil fruits, maybe it's harder for him if he lands in water to actually get out of it. And then, of course, with Akainu, it's the exact same thing that I just brought up, where, you know, he's got the lava devil fruit. So if he falls in the water and it forms a new island, that'd be super cool. So I'd like to see that too. But yeah, I think because it's already set up as a weakness of devil fruit users, something is telling me that Oda is saving it for one specific bad guy. Now, it could be the next bad guy I'm going to bring up and the next thing I need to see before One Piece ends, and that is more about Imu-sama. Now, this probably is the most likely thing to happen of all the things I'm bringing up, probably even more so than a full Zoro versus Mihawk fight, is we need to find out the truth of what's going on with Imu-sama. I don't want Imu to sort of be this character that's in the background that we don't see anything of. I'm going to tell you exactly what I don't want Imu to be. And the only reason I even have this as a point of reference is because I just watched the series for the first time last year. I don't want Imu to be Kaguya. right? I don't want Emu to come in the very last portion of the story, lore drop a bunch of stuff, and that be that. I would rather have Emu set up sparingly over the course of this final saga. We find out more about Emu, what their true intentions are, why they're with that giant straw hat, why they're actually in control of the government, and why the Gorosei are listening to them, and why there's an empty throne. Like, there's so many questions that were brought up when they introduced Emu back during the Reverie arc, and we haven't really touched on any of that since, since then. I mean, we went through all of Wano Country. We haven't seen much about Emu. I know, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I know the Gorosei, based on the trailers, are in Film Red, so maybe there was like a little bit of a teaser of Emu in that movie, but again, I have not seen Film Red yet, so I don't know. But I want more information on Emu, and I don't want it to be a lore dump just at the very end of the series. Which I guess, technically, when you look at how many chapters One Piece has, and how we're in the final saga right now, even if it goes from like 3 to 5 years, I guess if you look in the grand scheme of things of like the percentage of the series that the character was around, Emu and Kaguya are probably going to be like neck and neck when push comes to shove. Not in terms of actual volume of chapters, right? But in terms of the percentage of the overall series. So again, introduce more about Emu, give us more information about Emu sooner rather than later. That is what I ask. I just think there's so many cool story possibilities there with that character, with potentially filling us in a little bit more about like the Void Century, and is Emu super old, or like was there some type of connection with the Time Fruit? There's so many different Emu theories out there. I don't have time to get into all of them in today's video, but definitely something I want to see by the end of the series, more of Emu. So I said a character drowning, finding out more information about Emu, full Zoro versus Mihawk fight, an Akainu rematch either with Sabo and Luffy, or Sabo by himself, or Luffy by himself with the will and the ghost of Ace behind them. All things I really, really want to see. Now, the final thing that I really, really want to see, and I know this is very particular and very minor, and people are going to be like, really, of all the stuff in One Piece, this is something that's important to you? Yes, it is. This is something I really want to see. I really need to see a full reunion with Brook and Laboon. I have a deep fear that Brook and Laboon's reunion is going to be a panel and a half or a couple panels in an epilogue at the end of the series. I do not want that. Again, I know it's a very specific thing to say that I want. I know Brook isn't the most loved member of the Straw Hat crew, but I personally love Brook. Brook was the MVP of the Whole Cake Island arc, in my opinion, and I really do love that story tie with Laboon, and I feel like the further we get into One Piece, the clearer it becomes to me that the setup there with Binks Sake and the end of Thriller Bark is going to be critically important moving into the final bit of One Piece. I think whatever the One Piece is, and I know this is a theory that's been brought up multiple times. I know Artur did a video about it. I know multiple other people did a video on it. I think Ohara did a video on it too, but the idea that somehow, some way, the One Piece is related to Binks Sake, right? Or the truth of the world is, right? With like Nika and the Drubs of Liberation and all that kind of stuff, that they somehow go hand in hand, and the legend of Binks Sake that's sung in the song relates to the legend of the One Piece. So I really, really, really want to see Brook meet with Laboon again. Now, the one way in which I would be okay for this not to happen is if by the end of the series, Oda does a really heartfelt scene in which, and I'm not saying I want this to happen, just to clarify, because I know my words are going to be taken out of context. I would not mind a very heartfelt scene in which maybe Brook has to sacrifice himself at the end of the series, and tearfully he says goodbye to Laboon, and then the other Straw Hats pass on the message to Laboon at the end of the series, and you see Laboon crying and stuff. Now, again, that sounds awful. I would destroy me too, Shadow Order. I see you in the chat right now. I see you in the chat. It would destroy me as well, which is kind of why I feel like I kind of want to see it. But I would much rather have Brook actually meet Laboon. The two of them hang out again, have their full reunion, talk about what happened at the end of One Piece. Maybe Laboon helps them out in the final war. Like, how sick would that be? If all of a sudden all these other characters are coming together. Oh, actually that transitions into the other thing I want to bring up, but we're going to table that for a second. But all these characters coming together for this final war, because Oda's a master at this, right? He's a master at setting up characters that we know and love and then bringing them back for some type of grand reunion. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of characters, a lot of fan favorite characters that come back during that final war. You're going to see Germa come back, probably. You're going to see Senior Pink come back. I think there's a lot of them. And I think one of those characters that has the potential to come back during that final war is Laboon. And somehow, some way, he maybe helps them out, hangs out with, like, I want to see Laboon meet Jinbei. I think that would be super cool too. And that would also bring Crocus into the final war as well. Could you imagine a panel of like Laboon coming into the final war, helping them out in a dire situation, specifically helping out Brook in a dire situation in the final war? Laboon comes up, Crocus sitting on the top of Laboon, and Brook starts sobbing. End of chapter to Doom. My heart is pounding. That kind of thing would be amazing. Somehow. Oh, what if Laboon died? Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me, Luck Primo. I don't want Laboon to die. I see Matt Houston saying, give it to me. Free Bon Clay. Bon Clay's another character I want to see. I don't need to see Bon Clay involved in the final war by the end of the series, but I do need to see Brook and Laboon's reunion. I do. And again, this video is about things I need to see. This isn't necessarily just things I want to see. These are like the high priority, the highest of high priority. Emu, Brook and Laboon, Zoro versus Mihawk, Akainu rematch. This is all important stuff. And a character drowning, which again kind of goes into place with the stuff I was bringing up with Akainu. Now, last but not least, this is the last thing that I'm going to bring up that is an absolute need before the end of the series, okay? There is a character that has a cover story that takes place on the moon. The moon is obviously very integral to the story of One Piece at large. When the Sulongs look up at the moon, they transform. I mean, the Minks turn into Sulong. You know what I meant. It doesn't matter. Obviously, you got the Kozuki clan, you got the moon crest, the moon tattoos. The moon is vitally important. The Lunarians that were just introduced with King. So, the one other thing I need to see by the end of the series, and this seems very likely as well because Skypiea more and more as time goes on becomes an important thing, I need to see Eneru make a return. I do. I don't know in what capacity. I don't really care, to be honest with you. This can be a cameo. This can be a little one-panel thing at the end of the series. But I need to see him in the main story before the series ends once again. He's got too good of a devil fruit and too interesting of a devil fruit to not bring back into the story at the ending. I think there's a lot of Logia characters, right? But the idea of a Logia that shoots out lightning bolts and stuff, like the thunder, there's too many good things. I could go off on a whole tangent about Eneru. That's maybe a separate video for a different day. But Eneru is probably one of my favorite villains in the entirety of One Piece. I am somebody who from the beginning really liked Skypiea. I understand why people have problems with it. It is very long. There are parts that are sort of like kind of dull when you're going through the different trials and stuff, the ball trial with Satori and things like that. But the actual game, like the prediction game of Eneru saying these are the characters that are going to be alive at the end of all of it, these are the ones that I'm going to face, and then that final fight with Luffy, I thought was all really good. And because Eneru has been on the moon, right? And obviously the moon is important to the story, I do feel like there's a strong possibility that he descends down from the sky to give us a bit of a lore dump about the moon or something to that extent. I don't think Eneru necessarily will be redeemed based on what he saw on the moon. Like, I don't know really much about those automatons. None of us do. I want to know more about it. But I do really, really want to see Eneru. And I also think Eneru has a strong possibility of descending during that final war and doing a massive amount of damage. Like bringing the Arc Maxim down, doing, 10 billion volts or whatever onto the sea, taking out massive waves of pirate ships. Because again, at the end of the day, right, the characters that we follow in One Piece, they all have hockey or they have these cool devil fruit powers. But if you're imagining the final war, there's going to be a lot of fodder Marines. There's going to be a lot of fodder revolutionaries. There's going to be a lot of fodder pirates that don't have hockey, that don't have devil fruits, that can't deal with Eneru. And he's going to be able to wipe them all out instantly. He could shock them when they're in the water. They die right away. So I feel like this is another one that is very likely to happen by the end of the series. If I were to rank all of this stuff in terms of like likelihood, in terms of my needs for the series, I would say Emu is number one, and then I would say Zoro versus Mihawk, and then I would say Eneru. Then I would say full rematch with the Ghost of Ace with Akainu. Then I would say Nah, Brook and Laboon probably has a higher likelihood than some of the other stuff. I mean, this is all pretty likely stuff that I'm bringing up, to be fair. It's all relatively relative. Can I say that? It doesn't matter. But I feel like the stuff that I'm bringing up here isn't too shocking. These aren't revelations that I feel like won't be explored, at least in some capacity, by the end of the series, but it's just the stuff that's really important to me. So that's all I wanted to say in today's video. Please let me know in the comments down below, what are some things you absolutely need to see from One Piece before the series ends? Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully you'll see a video from me on Sunday explaining what is all about and where I'm going on my trip before Pokemon Worlds. So once again, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye, everybody.